Well, good afternoon from Two Happy Children Farm. It's late September. We're finally getting nighttime temperatures below 60, and our last heat wave was last week. It was in the hundreds. So I'm out in the field here looking at a first time cover crop for me. This is field peas, and I wanted to see how it worked before doing it on a lot of acres. So this area, I picked a few acres to try it out on that I knew would be pretty weed free, because once the cover crop comes up, there's no time to kill weeds. So I had a good burn down, and I was pretty confident that I wouldn't have a lot of weeds in this area. I also put it in the acres where it's pretty well drained, so if we run into trouble in the spring, it won't be super wet. And if we terminated it in the winter, then it should be good and dry. So these field peas were planted straight after the combine practically. I just took enough time to put out my dry fertilizer, and I always do a post-harvest burn down so the grasses don't get out of control. Like I said, this part of the field was pretty clean. So I planted it with my 4-row corn planter, and I put them in deep, a good 2 inches, and I also left the row cleaners completely up. I didn't try to push the residue out of the way. I just decided I don't know the right answer, so I was going to try it this year without putting any residue out of the way. We're in 180 bushel to 200 bushel residue here. So for the longest time you couldn't see anything coming, and even now it's still some of it buried and probably pest died under the residue. Since planting, we had about 10 days after planting, we had a ½ inch of rain, and it's been shut off ever since then. So these guys are really working hard. If we get some rain next week, that should really help this thing move along. Didn't have a lot of expectations, so I just did enough for about 12 acres. And we'll see what happens. Some of the acres I did it on, these were obviously in the field, but I also did it on this headlands down here. Down here I'm looking to maybe improve the water infiltration, or maybe reduce compaction a little bit. But I got a lot worse stand down here because the ground is more compacted, so getting it into the ground was harder. And so I didn't want to put all my peas on this headland, so you can see a lot of missing spots here. And I learned that a few years ago when I tried to plant soybeans following field corn. It's hard here on the headlands because the ground is so hard. We're rock hard after harvest and very little moisture to work with. So we'll see. We'll compare infield versus the headlands, and we'll see if we get rain next week, how much growth we can get before the first freeze. And I haven't decided yet if I'm going to terminate these or if I even need to terminate them. We'll find out. Like I said, it's in a pretty clean part of the field, so there's not really anything going on in there except some volunteer corn. And on the headlands I have some morning glory, so that's kind of a bummer. But we'll see. It's a lot of residue to work with, and I've always wondered if you could plant back after field corn, and we're going to find out. I also did a couple acres over by the house that were later, and they were planted completely dry, so they haven't even sprouted yet. But that's the trick here. You can try cover crops, but if you don't have anything to germinate them with, it's pretty pointless. So we'll see if those guys can catch up or if we even get any rain. So thanks for watching.